Coming up on Network Africa, the World Health Organization announces Nigeria and 5 other African nations to get mRNA vaccine technology to boost local production. Malawi declares wild polio case first in Africa in 5 years. Plus, Niger accepts French and EU forces support to boost security a day after France announced withdrawal of troops from Mali. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. Malawian health authorities have declared an outbreak of wild polio virus type 1 after a case was detected in the capital Lilongwe. The polio virus paralyzed a 3-year-old girl. Officials say a laboratory test found the strain to be the same as one circulating in Pakistan. The World Health Organization says this case is the first in Africa in 5 years. The last known case of wild polio in Africa occurred in 2016 in Borno State, Nigeria, and then the continent was declared free of indigenous wild polio in 2020. To COVID-19 stories now. The World Health Organization's Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, has announced the first 6 countries that will receive the technology needed to produce mRNA vaccines on the African continent. At the European Union-African Union Summit in Brussels, Dr. Tedros says Egypt, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa and Tunisia, who all applied, have now been selected as recipients. The announcement was made at a ceremony hosted by the European Council, France, South Africa and WHO. The Global mRNA Technology Transfer Hub was established in 2021 to support manufacturers in low and middle-income countries to produce their own vaccines.
Dear Presidents,
more than 80% of the population of Africa is yet to receive a single dose. Much of this inequity has been driven by the fact that globally vaccine production is concentrated in a few mostly high-income countries. One of the most obvious lessons of the pandemic, therefore, is the urgent need to increase local production of vaccines, especially in low and middle-income countries. Today, I'm delighted to announce the first 6 African countries that will receive technology from the hub to produce their own mRNA vaccines: Egypt, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, and Tunisia. WHO will work with the companies and the government in each country to develop a roadmap for training and production based on their needs and capacities.
The lack of a market for vaccines produced in Africa is something that should be concerning to all of us. Organizations such as COVAX and Gavi need to commit to buying vaccines from local manufacturers instead of going outside of those hubs that will have been set up to go and buy vaccines for distribution to the African continent again.
This is mRNA technology designed in Africa, led by Africa, and owned by Africa, with the support of Team Europe.
Meanwhile, Ghana, Rwanda and Senegal have partnered with German biotechnology company BioNTech SE to fill, finish and package BioNTech mRNA vaccines in Africa. This is the first step in the chain of domestic vaccines production, which is expected to improve vaccine supply in Africa. BioNTech SE's approach to this project is to establish scalable vaccine production by delivering turnkey mRNA manufacturing facilities based on a container solution. The modular production facility, known as BioNtainer, consists of 1 drug substance and 1 drug product module, each built of 6 SO-sized containers. Each module requires 800 of space and offers 1 million doses of mRNA-based vaccines, depending on the specific vaccine. We want to discuss all of this now. Joining us is Professor Lekan Ayo Yusuf, member of the Gauteng COVID-19 Advisory Committee, South Africa. He joins us live from Pretoria. Thank you, Professor, for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, help us understand at this point the significance of this mRNA technology that 6 African nations will be getting from the WHO.
So it's quite a significant development. There's been a lot of discussion for the since last year, about a year ago, that Africa needs to have capacity for local production if it were to be able to reach the herd immunity of vaccinating 70% of the population, given that all the production from the rich countries had already been booked for use by those countries. So it was clear that it was going to take many years, and that would obviously continue to widen the inequality in health. So the discussion has started, and it's taken so long, but I'm glad that eventually we now have the technology transfer. The original discussion was to allow patents to be given freely, but those companies refuse, and therefore the second option is to make sure that the Africans will have scientists, in any case, to be able to produce and develop their own vaccines.
Well, so for emphasis' sake, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, Kenya, and Senegal, and Tunisia are the countries that will be getting this technology. Is to be used, in the Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna jabs that's been developed in Europe. How can these countries harness the adequate potential of this?
So what essentially means, actually, as far back as June last year, the Global Hub was kind of given to a consortium in South Africa, from where the transfer would then go to Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa locally, and Tunisia, and those countries, and Kenya. So they would then be able to develop infrastructures in these other countries to be able to supply. I mean, naturally, Nigeria is a very big country, and therefore there's a need to have a manufacturing hub in Nigeria, and Kenya would obviously serve the West African nation. So one would expect that with the support of the Global Hub consortium in South Africa, Nigeria would then be able to develop the technology without having to pay for a patent, because this is now a global hub that is being controlled and supported by WHO and partners in Europe, I must say, for that matter.
Also, aside from COVID-19, is it possible that this hub can also be used to cater for other killer diseases that, the continent is grappling with?
Most certainly. mRNA technology is not new. This is why some people wonder how come this was so quick. mRNA technology has been around. There's been studies as far back as 1992 published on how mRNA technologies can reverse diabetes. So there's a potential for mRNA to be used for insulin to treat diabetes. There's also potential to actually use for cancer. Even malaria and HIV vaccines can potentially be produced from mRNA. So it is a big development beyond COVID that has actually happened. And I must say, it has taken so long because we didn't learn so much from HIV when the West refused to give the patent freely to Global South. We should have known that they're not going to give it freely, and we should have had this initiative long before now. But it is here, and it is really well embraced, and it will go far beyond COVID.
All right then, Professor Lekan Ayo Yusuf, member of the Gauteng COVID-19 Advisory Committee. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.
Still on the AU summit in Brussels, the European Union is offering several packages of support at the summit to bolster health, education and stability in Africa. The Western Bloc is also pledging half of a new €300 billion investment drive. Well, this fund is seen as efforts by the EU to rival China's heavy investments and initiatives that's already on the continent.
We can expect a package of at least €150 billion for Africa for the next 7 years. This is the first package under our Global Gateway strategy. And now we need you to tell us what the needs are and what the needs for the best for the people is. With this new package, we want to catalyze investments in 3 categories. The first, of course, is infrastructure. And there the top priority is energy. Energy, the pathway to renewable energy, and of course the transition towards renewable energy.
To other stories now. A senior commander in Somalia's central Hiran region has been killed during a clash between the country's security forces. Haramad paramilitary unit officers had a scuffle with local police, and the police chief was shot during the incident. The paramilitary officers had been deployed to Beledweyne district during the ongoing parliamentary elections. The district governor, Osman Dobo, says 2 officers were also wounded in that scuffle and are being treated in hospital. Amid the security situation in Somalia, the country's first public blood bank since 1991 is delivering life-saving donations to Mogadishu hospitals. Benadir Blood Service is run by a team of 20 volunteer medical workers who have saved lives that have been victims of bomb explosions.
When Somalia's biggest bomb blast killed more than 500 people in 2017, Dr. Ahmed Abdikadir Mohamed watched helplessly as many injured bled to death. Exactly 1 year later, in October 2018, he opened Benadir Blood Service, Somalia's first public blood bank since 1991. The bank, run by a team of 20 volunteer doctors, nurses and lab technicians, delivers life-saving donations to most Mogadishu hospitals. While private hospitals have their own small banks, Benadir is the only public one. Lack of access to safe blood is a major cause of maternal deaths. Each year, 5,000 Somali women die from childbirth complications, according to 2017 data from the United Nations Children's Fund. That's the latest year for which data was available. That same year, there were 740 terror-related deaths, according to the Global Terrorism Index. In addition to pregnant women and victims of violence, recipients of donated blood include women with chronic disease. Mohalim Raji Ali Irole is one of them. One challenge is convincing people to donate. Although some of the stigma around donation increased in the wake of the October 2017 bombings, Mohamed says misconceptions remain. Other challenges include equipment shortages and scraping together the 700 monthly operating fees. The bank stores about 100 units of blood. According to WHO, 1 unit can save up to 3 lives.
Still to come on the program. Our Africa Tech segment discusses the impact of the establishment of the Nigeria Data Protection Bureau. Please join us again. Welcome back to the program. The Democratic Republic of Congo's government and humanitarian community have launched the country's humanitarian response plan for this year, 2022, which is seeking over $1.8 billion to be able to provide assistance to 8.8 million people. Speaking to reporters in New York, UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said the humanitarian situation in the DRC continues to deteriorate, especially in the eastern region of the country, as a result of a tense security situation.
Republic of the Congo, the government and the humanitarian community launched the country's humanitarian response plan for 2022. The plan is seeking $1.888 billion to provide humanitarian assistance to 8.8 million vulnerable people. The humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate in the country, particularly in the eastern province of the country, due to a volatile security situation. As we pointed out, as we've reported, attacks against civilians, including internally displaced people, and have increased over the past year, especially in Ituri and North Kivu provinces. Today, more than 27 million people in the DRC are facing severe and acute food insecurity, with nearly 5.5 million displaced people forced to move, sometimes several times. 500,000 men and women and children, refugees and asylum seekers from neighboring countries are hosted in the DRC. Humanitarian operations in the last year were the least funded in the last 4 years. The limited funding, that's 39% only of the amounts needed for the 2021 humanitarian response plan, was of course insufficient for the humanitarian organizations to cover the basic needs of 9.6 million men, women, and children identified as being the most vulnerable.
President Mohamed Bazoum of Niger says he has accepted that French and European special forces be deployed into its territory from Mali to boost security near the border with its neighboring country. President Bazoum's comments come a day after France and European allies announced they would begin withdrawing troops from Mali, fighting armed groups operating in the western portion of Africa's Sahel region. Some 2,400 French troops that were part of the forces deployed in Mali to combat groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and about 900 special forces in the French-led Takuba task force are expected to leave Mali in the coming months. Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso have been struggling to contain armed groups that have killed hundreds, displaced millions and made swaths of territory in the tri-border West African Sahel area ungovernable. Nigerians in diaspora are slowly changing the negative perception often associated with Nigerian citizens as it relates to the handling of large sums of money. One of them is Lieutenant Victor Agmubiade, a U.S. Navy officer who was awarded a medal for judiciously managing the U.S. Navy's largest overseas cash disbursement office that involved $45 million. Lieutenant Agmubiade harps on the need for honesty and transparency, especially for public office holders, as it goes a long way towards shaping and developing society.
For someone to entrust his value or his property into your hand, and you have a duty to protect it and preserve it. So with that background, and then with my Christian values, going there and for me to be able to, for the U.S. Navy to entrust such huge amount of cash, cash money into my care, to me was like a sacred trust, in which I knew that number one, I'm responsible to God to make sure I uphold that integrity and trust. To be honest, to me, I think it's crazy for people to embezzle money, and I think it's insane. I think it's criminal, and I think when it's not your money, it's not your money. If somebody you're getting paid to manage that money, and if your salary is not enough for you to manage that money, leave the job and do another job, and give those jobs to those who can do it very well, and make sure those funds go to the right sources and the people they are meant to go to.
To catch the full interview with Lieutenant Victor Agmubiade, do watch Diaspora Network on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. A new government agency, the Nigeria Data Protection Bureau, has been approved by President Muhammadu Buhari for establishment. Well, this follows a request made by the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Issa Pantami. According to a statement issued by Professor Pantami's spokesperson, was Suleiman, the NDPD was established in line with global best practice and will focus on data protection and privacy for the country, among others. And finally, on the program, this next story is for burger lovers. Let's head now to Egypt to grab a bite of the local Physique burgers. A restaurant in the northern city of Mansoura is serving the gold leaf sprinkled Physique burger. Well, this is contemporary. It's coming with a contemporary twist to Egypt's popular salted fish.
Known as a local salted fish dish, usually eaten in family gatherings during Easter, this Egyptian restaurant is giving the country's popular physics a makeover. It is now a gold leaf sprinkled burger sandwich. Physique is a traditional dish of fermented salted mullet, a saltwater fish found in the Mediterranean and the Red Sea.
I got the idea because physique, or salted fish in general, are not presented in the required quality in Egypt. I wanted to develop the way physique and salted fish are presented in Egypt. So we introduced physique to Egyptians in a different form and quality. We added 24-karat gold leaf sprinkles to all salted fish products in general, and to physique in specific order to raise the value of salted fish and physique in Egypt.
During the holiday of Sham al-Nasim, Egyptians usually eat physique in a meal with boiled eggs, spring onions and lettuce. The 30-year-old Omar Makram, owner of Fasicanista's restaurant in the Delta city of Mansoura, is making it a year-long tradition with a modern twist.
I've never tried physique before. My friend recommended this place to me and tried a sandwich. I don't like the smell of physique and I can't peel it. But when I came here, I found it as a burger, just like any other burger. It's so good and tastes really delicious.
Like a steak served in a high-end restaurant in Dubai or Istanbul, Makram is adding gold leaf sprinkles to add value to the local dish. The price of a single sandwich ranges between 60 and 120 Egyptian pounds.
In general, we're used to gathering as a family and buying physique. It's a very delicious meal. We eat it from time to time. But what is strange is that the restaurant serves burgers and us sitting. Things that are unusual when eating physique.
Physique is believed to date back to ancient Egyptians who stored salted fish to keep them for longer periods, especially during drought. The recipe is said to have been passed on through the generations.
On the program today, thank you for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.